it's trying to make sure everybody benefits from things that may seem suitable only for a small number of people. And it is trying to balance that up and trying to make sure we can improve things for everybody, not just for the few.
Hi, I'm Laura Nielsen and welcome to Hope in the Deep End. We've put together this podcast to inspire us all to keep working in areas of deprivation and poverty. We're sharing best practice, stories, outcomes and some interesting thoughts and ideas. So whether you're working in primary care, secondary care, the charity sector or any of the other myriad of roles, please listen and help us to keep each other inspired.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to Hope in the Deep End podcast by Shared Health. I'm joined here today by Cllr Darren Sanders. He's the Deputy Leader of Portsmouth City Council and also the Cabinet Member for Housing and Tackling Homelessness. And our podcast today is going to talk a little bit about Darren's background and how he got into politics, and also how politicians, elected officials, and people working in areas of deprivation stay motivated and hopeful. So it's brilliant to have you on today, Darren. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, hello. That's a very good introduction, I've got to say, for starters. I'm not sure I can top this. So I'm quite rare. Portsmouth is run by a party called the Liberal Democrats. We got majority control in May's council elections, although we've been running Portsmouth as a minority for as long as anybody can remember. I think my starting point is that I'm one of the few people who's actually got experience of what he's overseeing. So I was brought up on a council estate here in Portsmouth. Classic one-parent family, 1970s. Mum's a cleaner. So I remember council accommodation from old because I grew up in it. And I saw the good bits and the bad bits. I saw the sense of community. I also saw the fact the system didn't often work for the people who were living in council blocks. So when the chance came to actually oversee the sort of estate that I grew up in, I thought, hey, I'll do that. And then after time, we then focused also on homelessness too. And so I decided, oh, this is actually quite better because you've got the ability to change someone's life. And I think that's one of the things that drives many people into this line of work or this vocation, is the chance to change someone's life and the chance to make people's lives better. And that's incredibly fulfilling. And the ability to do that from time to time is truly astonishing and always remains humbling.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. I mean, what an inspirational story. And the fact that you've grown up in Portsmouth and now you're representing people in Portsmouth, that's absolutely brilliant. So what was sort of the timeline for you in terms of being elected, and how have you seen the city progress, and how has your role progressed within the city as well over the past sort of 15 years, 16 years that you've been a councillor for?
Well, I mean, I was born in the 1970s, so I remember lots of things were very, very different in the 1970s. We had a pub on every street corner, pretty much. We had lots of shops that were very nearby. So many people just lived above the shop. There was a very strong sense of community. I mean, where I was, which is now a new housing association estate, that was basically a place where we held the Silver Jubilee party. So there was all sense of people coming together. There was walking lines out on the bank. You used to go up and do the mangle every week and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very strong sense of community. Portsmouth has a very strong sense of community, very strong sense of identity, even though in many cases it's a series of villages. So there was that. In the 1970s. As things have developed, the naval base was all but closed by Margaret Thatcher. That changed a lot of people's approach to things. I moved to London in 1992 after going to Cambridge University. I spent 18 years up in London. I was first elected to Lambeth Council in 2002 for a ward called Clapham Common, which is the richest part of the borough. That was very eye-opening because that was people with a range of experiences I simply hadn't had. But it was a privilege representing them. Came back to Portsmouth in 2010, got on the council in 2012 for a suburb called Bathins, which is middle is a pond, basically. And then when the Lib Dems resumed control in 2018, I thought, hey, this will do. And this was actually quite a nice portfolio to have because I wanted to take on the experiences I'd had growing up and actually apply them to other people. So the city's changed. massively over the years. Um, there's a greater in Southsea. There's a greater middle class. There's independent shops and everything else. In other parts of the area, in other parts of the city, not much has changed. In some places, there's a sense of decline. Shops have closed, pubs have closed, all the things that kept communities together have closed. And it's trying to re-establish that and make people feel more in control of their own lives. That's one of the things I'm very interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really interesting that you also represented a London council, Lambeth, as well. I think you could probably, there's a lot of experience from that too that you've probably brought into your role, but
That's one way of describing it, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's one way.
equally very different, two very different places. So,
Oh, yeah, totally, totally,
yeah, absolutely.
totally.
And what do you think the biggest challenges that you have are in Portsmouth right now? What is it that you see a lot of on the ground in Portsmouth?
I think the biggest challenge that faces us is the fact that Labour wants this council to be scrapped in 22 months. That's a real issue across the authority. At the moment, we have to make relatively few savings on an income of about turnover about 250 million. Labour wants to merge us with various districts and Hampshire County Council, and that will turn that into a deficit of £67 million on a turnover of 500 million, 750 million. That means there's going to have to be and that's after we've got rid of people and we've sold off buildings.
Right,
So
okay.
that means there's a real chance that many of the services that people provide, many of the services people want, things like maintaining your parks, keeping your pavements, all that sort of stuff, will just go because of
Mm.
the huge debts that our future partners in Hampshire County Council have in dealing with people with special educational needs, looking after old and vulnerable. One of the tasks I'm trying to do within the housing, the housing account I oversee, is to keep as many services as we can. I want to keep the adventure playgrounds that we run. I want to keep the youth service that we have. I want to keep the wardens that we fund, all these things, because that's what our residents want. And I think the biggest single challenge is Labour's desire to rip all that up and create something brand new that will create years of upheaval. And frankly, for us, it feels like, the Glazers coming to take over Manchester United. I mean, it's that bad.
Right, okay, yeah. So in my sort of role, I look at kind of regional and local politics. So I know quite a fair bit about what's going on down in Hampshire at the minute. And I was going to ask you actually a little bit about the proposals for the combined authority and how do you see that delivering for the region and more importantly for Portsmouth and your residents? How do you think that that will play a role in the changes that might occur as a result of that combined authority structure?
As a Liberal Democrat, I believe that power is best exercised by closest to the ground. I believe communities being put in control is fundamentally a good thing and will deliver better outcomes. So the idea of getting power out of London, particularly around skills, particularly around employment, particularly around transport, is incredibly good. And although it's a mayor, and the idea that one person can oversee 2 million people and has got one plan for a village of 50 people in the middle of Hampshire, and the 300,000 people who live in Southampton, the 215,000 people who live in Portsmouth, and have one plan for the whole place is a bit mad. But the basic idea of getting power out of London into local areas is fundamentally good. And I think it will transform part of our area, places like the Isle of Wight. I think for Portsmouth, it gives us a chance to actually build homes people can afford, which is actually one of the biggest problems that we face. There's just not enough money at the end of the week for many people. The cost of living is or the lack of cost of living is a real issue for many people. We're trying to mitigate that. But I think there are real opportunities there to provide better lives. I want to see it devolve down further than just sort of, one person for 2 million people. But I think there are real opportunities there. And that's why Portsmouth, along with Hampshire, Southampton, and the Isle of Wight, have been enthusiastic partners in this. And we've been able to secure the best deal in the country at the moment for that. And I'm really proud of that because I think it really will transform people's lives.
Yeah, that's really interesting. No, thank you for giving your perspective on that. And then also, I wanted to talk a little bit about in because you spoke at our Fringe event of just under a year ago at
I do.
Liverpool
Yes, I
Conference
vaguely remember. Yes, yes, thank you
in
very much. Yes, yes,
autumn.
yes.
Yeah, and I think at that time you touched a little bit on some of your developments in transport and some of the projects that are going on in terms of free transport and was it bus passes that you were
Yeah,
delivering?
yep, yep.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about that really, and for you to explain a bit about how that's delivered for your residents.
Well, if I may, I'll start first to why we've done all this. We are a densely populated city, yet we have a high dependency on the car. That's partly because of the employment makeup of the city. There's lots of self-employed people who work on building sites and stuff like that. So as a result, we have a high level of air pollution. That is frankly going to ruin the lives, particularly of people living on the council estates that I ever see. So we're not only committed to a climate emergency, we've been very keen to actually do all we can to try and reduce dependency on the car because we know the private vehicle is the biggest source of pollution, which we know ruins children's lives. And so we've secured the biggest amount of bus money in the country from something called the Bus Services Improvement Programme, £48 million. And we promptly spent it on doing things like capping bus fares before it was a gleaming Rishi Sunak's eye, bless him. Um, uh, we've also done things like actually expand services, expand service frequency, improve infrastructure, provide real-time information. And as a result of all that, we have, I am told, the biggest increase in bus usage in the country. Sorry, in England. More than 1 million journeys than were before. And the last time I saw, we were the only part of England whereby bus usage was above what it was before the COVID pandemic. And that's done incredible things. It's meant that car usage is down, air pollution is coming down. Um, People can actually get around. Congestion is coming down, and the more congested you are, the longer it takes to get to work, the less productive you will be. So it's a huge, huge thing, and I think it's one of our proudest achievements to get 1 million more bus journeys around the place. And we've developed the park and ride, and that's going quite well. We've just announced a new commuter bus between Portsmouth and Fareham. It's going to speed things up because we know people want to get around. And they don't want to spend money. I'm delighted the government's continuing with the bus cap. Delighted it's reverted back to what it was before Labour got in. And I think that will be hugely, hugely helpful.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I wanted to just revert a little bit back to the sort of, I suppose, the growth of Portsmouth really, because you've seen obviously you've got the university and that's provided a lot of development. I actually attended Portsmouth University myself, so um,
Lucky person.
yeah, it was an
Congratulations.
amazing,
Well done.
amazing city. And how do you think that you hold both spaces? Because it's obviously enabling sort of inclusive growth, I suppose, of bringing those most deprived wards and deprived families that are living within those wards up, but then also promoting kind of broader growth of a South Coastal region, really. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about how you hold both.
It's a real tension. We have 29,000 students in this city. Many of them actually from Portsmouth or from nearby because it's easier and it means they can live at home and therefore they don't have to spend so much money. They don't have to travel so far. So many of them are from Portsmouth. It's not a case of they're all coming from other parts of the country. But there is a real tension. There are many people in the city who don't like students, frankly. But then again, I know that's true of pretty much every university city in the country. People who live there tend not to like students. There's always a gap between what they call town and gown. But the truth is that many of the students who graduate live here, set up businesses here, and contribute to the economy and contribute in a productive way. So just to chuck that away, to chuck away the future of the city seems a bit ridiculous. So it is a balance. There's been lots of purpose-built student developments that have occurred within the city, and that's turned much of the area around the university that places like Commercial Road and all that sort of stuff, into high-rise flats that are quite dense. But we also know that many students want to move out in the second and third year because they just want to be with their mates. That's created that's particularly become sensitive because they move to what's called HMOs or shared houses. And that's created tensions with their neighbours. And that's why we've been working constructively with the university to try and not quite put a lid on it, but to try and make sure there's a proper balance between, students living their own lives and not upsetting their neighbours. So there is a real tension there. But we ride it because we know students contribute to the future economy of the city. And that's why I've put in place a whole range of balances, including regulations on HMOs, whilst not stopping students from enjoying themselves. But you're right, it is a real balance, and we do have to walk that tightrope.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for providing a bit of insight on that. I think, um, my time at university was absolutely brilliant, and I'd absolutely love to go back. But it's really interesting because I lived in an area quite near Somerstown, and then equally there were areas like Gunwharf where, you've got such drastic differences in terms of the population and the deprivation within those different wards. So I think that's
Well,
really
actually, it's in
important.
the same council ward.
Oh,
That's one of
really?
the interesting, yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
Gunwharf
okay.
is in the same as Somerstown. I mean, I spent a decade living in council houses, flats in Somerstown, so I'm fully aware of all that. And probably where you live is the nicer side of Somerstown, being honest. We call it the ladder down here.
Okay.
But there are those places, and they frankly don't call themselves Somerstown, and they'll hate you if you ever say you're in Somerstown when you're living in those roads, because they seem sort of East Southsea. But you're right. It is one of the issues we've also got to do is to try and actually make sure everybody benefits. Gunwharf has done huge amounts for our city's economy. It's transformed people's perceptions of our city, and it's given us an iconic building in the Spinnaker Tower. But there are people, particularly living on the council estates nearby, who feel it's just not them. It's not their area, and that's why I've been doing a lot to try and improve the community bounds and community binds in Portsea, which is where Gunwharf basically is, or it's as it's now called North Gunwharf, and it's trying to make sure everybody benefits from things that may seem suitable only for a small number of people. And it is trying to balance that up and trying to make sure we can improve things for everybody, not just for the few.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to move on to kind of the purpose of the podcast, really, which is all about hope and all about looking to the future and how
Mm.
we stay motivated. Because, we as Shared Health, we work with families in temporary accommodation, and we see the struggles that they face, and the health and educational impact, sorry, that has on children. And so from your perspective, you've been working in this for such a long time. How do you keep motivated? Is it because you're seeing people on the ground and you're seeing how much you've given to their lives, and that's a real boost for you? Or how is it that you get up every day and you still, you're positive about it?
Well, it's the ability to change someone's life.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. The ability to provide people with a home, which I can't do all the time. I'd love to move everybody who comes to me, and I can't. And if I don't, they definitely tell me about it. This week I've had to tell people in 4-tower blocks in the city they're going to have to leave over the next 4 years. They're going to have to leave their home. But what I've said to them is actually it's a chance to actually make something better. And I think it's also about trying to put in place principles. So when we've taken people out of blocks, we've made sure that they're at the heart of what replaces them. So we took people out of 2-tower blocks in Somerstown, but we made sure local residents were the heart of what replaces them, and we're going to start building the replacement very soon. Because I think one of the things that's happened on council estates in the past, there've been lots of plans made by people who never live on a council estate, never grew up there, don't really get it. Lots of them in the place I used to live in, Somerstown, and nothing happens. So people feel disillusioned, they feel angry, they feel alienated. The idea is if you give people some control over the future, then you give them hope. They provide the hope, not you. I'm not big-headed enough to believe it's all down to me or anything like that, but I know plenty of politicians are big-headed enough to believe, it's boosting their ego. You do it because you want to make sure other people's lives are better, and you want to provide the best service that you can. And if you know that if you put the people who live on the estates at the heart of what you do, things will get better. And unbelievably, you'll save money as well. I mean, I was at a presentation last week, and we had a guy who cost the public service £185,000. NHS, housing, police, everything, prison, everything.
Mhm.
We've put into a team that we're producing, a team that we're piloting at the moment, and he now costs the taxpayer 217 quid, and
Wow.
his life is better.
Yeah.
And it's that way round. And that's what keeps you going. The belief that if you can actually humanize the system, you'll deliver people a better life, and you'll save money as well, which means you can deliver better lives to even more people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredibly inspirational. It's been brilliant hearing about your story, brilliant about hearing all of the work that you're doing in Portsmouth. I just wondered if you could talk to me a little bit about what do you think the proudest project or the proudest moment that you've had during your career politically or equally,
God,
professionally, however you want to answer that question.
God. Um, I think the projects that we call um, Summer's Orchard here.
Okay.
And that was two tower blocks that I had to get people out of because, frankly, the concrete wasn't as safe as we thought it was going to be.
Right.
I wanted to learn the lessons from London, whereby councils just ignored the residents, and so lots of people staying behind, particularly in places like the Elephant and Castle and the Aylesbury estate in Southwark, whereby the council just decided it was all for rich people. And we decided actually to put residents, local people, in charge of their future. And what they've produced is utterly phenomenal.
Wow.
Um, and for that area that's been let down so often, to do that is amazing. Sorry, I'm going to cry a bit if I'm not
No,
careful.
that's okay.
But it is truly, truly wonderful.
Yeah,
And now they've got some hope. And now an area that's
absolutely.
been battered for decades, treated as if it was second rate for decades, now has some hope. And that's great. So
Absolutely.
that's probably my proudest moment. There are ones that are more consequential, like getting rid of an energy company that was going to destroy the finances of this city. But that's probably my proudest moment. Yeah.
No, definitely. That sounds absolutely inspirational. And, thank you so much for your raw emotion there. And I
That's right.
really felt that. And I think, you're delivering so well for the city and definitely something to be proud of. So I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on today. Our listeners
Not
are
at
going to
all.
absolutely love that story. And it's been brilliant to connect with you again. And I'm sure we'll see you in about a month's time at
I will see you around,
I'll see
I'm
you around
sure.
for sure. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time.